How do you make your dreams a reality? Has it been very challenging? Why? The Dream to Rise podcast was created to inspire individuals on their journeys of personal and professional growth. Recognizing the power of dreams and aspirations, this podcast aims to share authentic stories, valuable insights, and transformative strategies from a diverse range of guests. It serves as a platform for encouraging listeners to overcome obstacles, embrace their potential, and pursue their passions with purpose and determination, ultimately empowering them to turn their dreams into reality. Let us listen to our guests and learn from their story. Welcome to our listeners and our Dream to Rise guest, Dr. Andrea Niestas. Has a PhD in clinical psychology and over 25 years of experience in behavioral health. She spent 20 years working in a behavioral health hospital with 15 years in leadership. She is a coach and speaker who supports individuals seeking more meaning in life, connection, and fulfillment, and those ready to move beyond simply existing and towards fully living. She works both one-on-one and at the community level, offering workshops that encourage and shared growth and collective transformation. In addition, Dr. Niestas is a psychology professor and community wellness instructor, as well as a dedicated advocate for mental health awareness and suicide prevention. She is actively involved in her community and has created several nonprofits initiatives, including Kindness to the Community, focused on giving to others. At the heart of her work is a commitment to inspire others to live with purpose and a belief that meaningful change is always possible while fostering kindness, courage, and hope. So without further ado, let's all welcome Dr. Andrea Niestas. Welcome to our Dream to Rise podcast, Doctor.
Thank you, Cynthia. I really appreciate the invitation.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners will be able to find value in what you will be sharing. Again, we will focus on your story. So let us start. Can you tell us something about yourself that brought you to where you are right now, doing what you're doing?
So the main experience that I had was when I was hospitalized for 101 days. So I became ill and I went into septic shock, and I was in the hospital for about 3.5 months, had a couple of emergency surgeries. I was in a coma for a couple of weeks. I got to the point where I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk. And so that really has been the most defining experience of my whole life.
Why? What happened? Sorry, if I'll ask. What happened during that time?
So when I was first hospitalized, they still couldn't figure out what exactly was wrong with me and what led to septic shock. So I ended up being in the hospital for about a week and a half before they could really figure out what was going on. And then I had emergency surgery. So after I had emergency surgery, I was in a coma for about 2 weeks.
Wow.
Once I woke up from that coma, at this point, I had already been in the hospital a total of about 3.5 weeks. So I was in there for almost a month. I ended up waking up to being on a ventilator. I had a trach. I couldn't talk because of the trach. I had already been bedbound for, like I said, almost a month. So I couldn't walk. I couldn't move my legs or my feet at all. I had a wound back from the emergency surgery incision that I had. I was, at the time that I woke up, I didn't even realize it, but I was having hallucinations as well. I was having these dreams and hallucinations, and I thought the hospital staff was trying to kill me. So I woke up with all of these tubes, and I really didn't even understand what had happened because I was so sedated and I was so medicated that I was really, more than anything, when I first woke up, I was just really confused. I didn't understand what was happening. And so it was really difficult for me to even communicate with the hospital staff because not only could I couldn't talk, excuse me, my family had brought me like a board to write, but I was so shaky that they couldn't read my handwriting. They couldn't read what I was trying to write. Even when I was trying to point to the board, the letters, my hands were so shaky that I couldn't tap the letter I wanted to. So I really had no communication besides physically like pointing or gesturing because I couldn't communicate words to them at all.
So this led you to some kind of depression, or how? And when you left the hospital and moved to your home, I mean, what were you feeling? What challenges were you experiencing in terms of, I feel bad, I don't know what type of feeling you were experiencing during that time?
Well, it really happened still when I was in the hospital because when I first woke up from the coma, for about that first week, like I said, I was really confused and I didn't really fully understand what was happening. After about a week is really kind of when it set in, like exactly what was going on. So at that time is really when I started feeling depressed because I felt like I honestly didn't even know if I was ever going to be able to walk or talk again because I didn't understand exactly what was happening and if it was something that could be reversed or fixed. So at that point is when I really started getting depressed. And so what I was thinking was what was the purpose of me surviving to just be in a hospital bed with tubes coming in and out of me, not being able to walk, not being able to communicate, not being able, at that point, really still thinking that people were trying to kill me. So I really didn't understand why I would survive for a life of just living in a hospital bed. And so that's when I really started getting more depressed and feeling really hopeless.
So was that time, during that time, have you done your PhD?
Yes.
Yes.
I finished my PhD back in 2005. So
This happened, when did this happen?
so this happened in 2024.
Oh, just recently.
Yes, it was just recently. So it really, like June, right now we're in June. June really hits that 2-year mark that this whole experience started because I started getting sick at home and I was sick for about 2 or 3 months before I even got hospitalized because I kept going to the doctor and they kept telling me that there was nothing that they could do because I was in the middle of changing my GI specialist. And so I had an appointment to see the GI doctor, like, a few months down the road because, everybody knows how it is getting in to see a new doctor. There's always a wait list, there's a long waiting period. So every time I would go to the doctor, they would tell me, we can't do anything. You have to wait to see the GI doctor. Meanwhile, I was getting sicker and sicker. When I was at home, I was so sick that I couldn't even get up off the couch. I couldn't stand from the couch on my own because I was getting so weak. My husband had to help me. He would have to get my elbows and lift me up off the couch. I couldn't walk more than about 5 feet before I was completely out of breath. So I was getting really, really ill at home and I knew something was wrong, but the doctors weren't helping me. They were just giving me antibiotics and pain medication and just sending me home. So because I really wasn't getting the treatment I needed and my body was becoming poisonous, my blood was having, well, like I said, I was going into sepsis at that point. So eventually, because I wasn't getting the treatment I needed, I finally collapsed. And that's when I ended up in the ER and finally got admitted to the hospital.
Oh, okay. You have mentioned that you were depressed. When was the time during that journey wherein you told yourself that I need to stop this way of thinking that I'm depressed and make a shift to make it more positive, and now you're doing what you're doing?
So after about a week of really understanding, like I said, what was happening and how bad it was. So I was feeling depressed and having a really hard time for about a week. And I literally would just sit there and stare at the wall. The nurses would ask, do you want to watch TV? Do you want to read a book? I just sat there and stared at the wall 24/7. I couldn't sleep at night because I thought the staff was trying to kill me in the middle of the night. And
Oh,
so I was having a hard time sleeping. So really about a week after feeling this way, the biggest thing that was more fearful for me was the ventilator because I knew if I couldn't get off the ventilator and breathe on my own, that I wasn't going to survive. So every time they would try to titrate me off the machine so I could breathe more on my own, I felt like I couldn't breathe. And then I would start having a panic attack because I knew if I can't get off of this, I'm not going to survive. So then I would get anxious and they would have to put it back on. And it was just like the circle. So that was the thing that I was most afraid of. And that was the thing I was having the hardest time getting off of. So I knew, because of my training and my schooling in psychology, I know about the research studies that show the connections between your mind and your attitude and your, like you said, your mindset. All of that has an effect physically, positive and negative, on your body. And so I knew that unless I could help myself emotionally, there was a chance I was not going to be able to recover physically. I knew that. And so at that point, I decided that I really just had to stop feeling sorry for myself. And I knew that I had to do something to be more positive and more proactive in doing something to help myself. Because once I was able to do that, I knew that I could help myself recover physically better. I would be in a better place to be able to help myself. So then when I tried to get off the ventilator, when I started trying to do my physical therapy, I knew that I could be more successful if I had that mindset change. And so that's when I just made the decision, like I need to do this. Like, I know that I need to do this. And it really was at that point almost a matter of life and death. If I didn't do this, I was just going to fall deeper and deeper into that dark hole. And I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to get myself back out again if I let that happen.
So what was your first step towards overcoming that, crossing or trying to cross that bridge or being away from that black hole? What was the
So
first thing you did?
the first step for me was realizing that I had survived for a reason. There was a purpose for me surviving, because at most the doctors had given me a 50-50 chance of living. And they had already told my husband that if anyone wanted to go visit me, they should do it now because I was so sick. And so realizing that, I knew that I had only survived by the grace of God, and that I was here for some sort of purpose. And I didn't know what it was yet at that point, but I knew that I could never get to the point of being able to figure it out and work towards that if I didn't get myself better. So I felt, anyways, in my heart, like that was the first step, just making that realization that I had survived for a reason, and I needed to be able to work towards that to fulfill whatever that reason was. So that was really like the first step for me.
Actually, that is the most important first step, defining your purpose. Why did I have to go through this? And what is the main reason why God let me experience this? And it seems that through this journey, you're now helping other people live the life they love through your coaching thing. So you're sharing your story as well, inspiring and empowering them that if I can do this, you can also do that. Do the same thing.
Yes, because there was so much that I had to overcome. And, sometimes people think like just things are so bad and nobody understands. And, you can't really just say you're going to have a more positive attitude and then just be more positive. And so it feels very overwhelming. It feels like, how can I try to be positive when I can't even move? Like I literally could like move my arms and my hands like a little bit. I couldn't even like roll over to the side of the hospital bed on my own. So it just felt like it was just so overwhelming. Like I had so much to overcome. Like every time the doctor took me off an antibiotic because they said your infection's gone. We can take you off this medication. 2 days later, they would say, oh, now we just did more labs and now you have another type of infection. And so now we have to put you on steroids and we have to put you on a stronger medication. It was like, it wasn't even a full step forward. It was like half a step forward and then like 3 steps back. Yeah. It was just so frustrating. It was so overwhelming thinking about everything that I had to overcome, learn how to, it wasn't even about learning how to walk again. At that point, I had to try to just move my feet. Like I couldn't even I couldn't even wiggle my toes. I had like no strength just because I had been laying in bed for so long. And at that point, I literally couldn't talk. Like I didn't have the physical capabilities to be able to talk. So it was just so overwhelming thinking of everything that I had to overcome and recover from that it is. I mean, I understand people feeling like, how can you just say you're going to change your mindset because everything is going wrong or seems like it's so difficult? Like you don't even feel like you can overcome one of the things, much less everything that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
I understand that, having that frustration.
Oh, yes. You mentioned about in our introduction, you've worked for 20 years in the behavioral health in the
Yeah.
hospital, right? What are some common misconceptions about behavioral health that you encounter?
So I think one of the biggest misconceptions or at least fear is that a lot of people who are going into the behavioral health hospital were really experiencing like their first major episode of depression or psychosis or mania, whatever it was that they were going through. And I mean, it really is sort of similar to what I was just talking about. They feel like they think they're going to be like this the rest of their life. They feel like there's no hope to ever get better. They don't understand that there's treatment and there's medications and there's therapies and there's things that they can do. I mean, they're never not going to have bipolar again, you know. Their psychosis may come and go, but there's things that they can do to try to treat that and try to manage it on a more regular basis. And
Mhm.
so sometimes they don't understand that there is hope and there's treatment and there's things to try to help maintain and deal with those symptoms. And that's pretty much how I felt too. Like I didn't know if I was going to ever be able to walk again. And so that's one of the biggest misconceptions, like, oh, you have this disorder and you're always going to be that way. Well, there's going to be ups and downs just like anything else. And there's things that you can do to be able to learn how to manage it and deal with it and try to keep those symptoms from coming back up again. You'll probably never be completely free of them like the rest of your life, but there's things that you can do to help yourself and learn ways of dealing with things and do different types of medications or treatment that can kind of help keep that at bay. And so I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. People think like, there's really no way to get better and you're just going to be like this forever. Well, there are things that you can do to help manage it, just like diabetes. If you get diagnosed with diabetes, there's medications that you can take. You can change the way you eat. You can change how much exercise. There's things that you can do, and mental health is the same way. And so I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that people have.
Yeah. You also mentioned about wellness, that you focus as well for your clients, for your coaching business. How would you define wellness in the context of mental health, and why is it important?
So wellness is really kind of like that first step to having good mental health, because wellness is like that preventative care. Like when you go to the doctor, you don't always go to the doctor because you're sick. They want to see you once a year for your annual exam, right?
Mm.
So when you go, they check your blood pressure, they say eat better, make sure you get enough sleep, right? So you leave the doctor's office with a list of things that you should do to kind of help maintain your physical health. And so wellness is sort of the same thing for mental health. Like, what are the things that you can do to help maintain that well-being, emotionally, spiritually, relationship wise? So there's things that you can do, and that's what wellness is about, is following those preventative steps. So what are the things that you can do? What are the things that you can learn? What are the things that you can implement in your life so that you don't fall into a emotional crisis? So if you learn how to deal better with things that come at you in life, because everybody's going to have those challenges. So what can you do and what can you learn how to prevent those things so that when you do have something stressful or difficult coming up, you're able to manage it better than if you don't have these skills or don't really pay attention to your mental health. You're going to have something huge happen to you in your life. And it's really going to take more of a toll on you because you really have never practiced how to deal with those sort of things in your life.
Yes. So I'm just curious about your coaching style and how you tailor your approach to meet the unique needs of your individuals, your clients.
So there's a lot of different workshops that I do. So I do some on like mindset, some on kindness, some on just mental health education, just sort of the stuff that we've been talking about as far as mental health goes. But one of the key components that I talk about in almost all of those workshops or all of those discussions I have with people is the whole idea of gratitude. And so gratitude, you asked me about my first step to get myself out of that hole. So the first step was realizing that I survived for a purpose. And if I don't get my act together and get on track, I'm never going to fulfill that purpose. So then the next step for me in order to be able to get myself back on track was to have that gratitude. So instead of saying, why am I in this hospital bed? Why did I survive to lay here with tubes and I can't walk and I can't talk and I can't, I was on a feeding tube. I can't even eat. So instead of asking, why did I survive for this? My mindset changed to was, thank God I'm in a hospital bed because now they can help me. Nobody was helping me before I got sick, but now I'm here because they're actually helping me and they're actually going to help me get better. So every single thing that was happening, I had to change it in my mind. So, people call it reframing, see the silver lining.
Yeah,
Like you said,
focusing on the positive.
yeah, what's the light at the end of the tunnel? But I mean, like whatever it is, really it's just a different way to look at gratitude. Gratitude is not just looking at things with rosy colored glasses. It's really making an active effort to look for the positive.
Exactly.
So, and those were the things I tried to do. Like it was frustrating. I couldn't walk, or I'm sorry, I couldn't talk and I was having trouble communicating. But instead of focusing on that, I focused on, well, thank God, at least I'm still alive, because I almost was not alive. Like I almost died 3 times when I was in the hospital. Two
Yeah.
times I went into respiratory failure. And so as I was learning more about what happened to me, because I didn't really, when I first woke up, I really didn't understand the extent of everything that had happened. So as I was slowly learning more, then I had more to actually be grateful for, because I was understanding everything that happened when I was in the coma, or at least the parts that I didn't remember. And there's a lot of things I don't remember. My family would tells me things and I'm like, well, I don't remember that part. So like to me, like that was step 2. The step 2 is gratitude. And even if you don't do anything else but try to practice gratitude more, that's going to have such an effect on your life. And so that concept of gratitude and things that you're grateful for and what can you appreciate, and finding that silver lining is really something that kind of goes through every part of the coaching that I do. Almost it comes up somehow in almost every workshop, because to me, like that's such an important key. That's such an important base component to just about anything, talking about wellness and mental health and fulfillment and everything.
I agree with you. I always include gratitude at the very start of my session with my clients. What are you grateful for and proud of? And that builds also their confidence. And when you are grateful for something, you've faced struggles or traumas in life, they are still blessings because you learn something from that. You become stronger, you've become more resilient. And that's what we need to become successful as well. And it's not really focusing on the problems, but focus on the opportunities that you will gain from that situation or from that journey.
And it's just like anything else. The more you practice it, the more it's going to come natural. You don't have to pull out, where's my little paper, write down things I'm grateful for. It's not like it's a homework assignment. Like the more you do it, just like anything else, the more it's just going to come to you naturally. And you're going to start realizing like, oh, this is something like even now, like sometimes I go into a building that has steps. And as I'm walking up the steps, I realize like a year ago, I was in a wheelchair. Like a year ago, I could not do this. There's little things that just pop up into my head every once in a while. And like I said, you have to actively do it. You have to practice it. You have to not let those opportunities go by and make that effort to be able to see those things.
Yes, I agree. What are some of the biggest challenges people face when seeking help for mental health issues?
So some of the biggest challenges, I think it kind of goes back to what I said, like it's always going to be one step forward and two steps back, or, if you're lucky, it's two steps forward and one step back, but whatever the case is, there's always going to be difficulties. And just because I made that decision that I'm going to be more grateful, that I'm going to change my perspective on how I see things, doesn't mean I did that 24/7. I still had a hard time. I still had to start an antidepressant when I was in the hospital. I still had to increase the dosage of that like a few weeks later because I was having a really hard time. Like after I hit about the 2 month, 2.5 month mark in the hospital, I was really, really having a hard time because I was feeling really hopeless. Like it was never like, am I going to live in the hospital for the rest of my life? Like I'm not. I felt like I couldn't see the end of the tunnel at that point, and I was having a really hard time. So just because you make a decision to do something different, or you try to move forward, or you try to be more positive, doesn't mean you're going to be positive all the time. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have difficult times. It just means that you're leaving your heart open to be more hopeful and to look at things more positively and to be able to practice that so you can do it a little bit more easily. And you're still going to have down times, and you're still going to have the people that support you in your life try to pull you back out of that. And so you have to know that that's going to happen. Like just like when we talk about in mental health, like when you're in recovery from mental health or recovering from substances or whatever it is, that you're going to have those times. They're going to try to pull you back, and something's going to drag you down, and it's going to be a hard day or a hard month or even a hard year. But knowing that those are going to happen and expecting that and knowing that it's normal can kind of ease that frustration a little bit. And so just having that in mind, knowing that, it doesn't even matter, your question was, what are the obstacles? In some sense, it doesn't matter what the obstacles are. Just knowing that you're going to have them and it's still going to be difficult some days, can really just help you like mentally prepare for that.
And it's also important to be surrounded with people who would support you. That's why we have coaches here, and try to be surrounded by positive people as well. People who will lift you up rather than drain you down, because
yeah.
it makes an impact. It makes a difference, really, if you're surrounded with positive people who would support you.
Yeah. And, even before this, I would say like life's too short. Life's too short to be angry all the time. Like, why do you want to spend your time being angry? Like, life's too short to be angry. Life's too short to be around people who aren't going to support you and be positive. Like, it's not worth it. Knowing how precious time is, and especially, now, even more so, like, there's just, I call it noise. Like, why surround yourself with this noise? Why expose yourself to things that aren't going to improve your life in some way? Like, it's just useless.
Yes. So is it okay with you to say that if you're surrounded by toxic people or toxic environment, is it okay for you to say, oh, distance yourself?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I,
Even though there are family members?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I heard this once and I repeat it in different ways using different words, but you decide whatever your goal is, what your purpose is, what you want to work towards, whatever it is, the path you want to be on. You decide on that, and you only do things that keep you on that path. So the habits that keep you on that path, being around the people that keep you on that path. And if it doesn't keep you there, if it doesn't get you to your goal or what you want in the end, whether it's a habit that you do or people that you're around, then just let it go. You just have to let it go, because now I know even more so that because we only have one life here on earth, you really have to protect that. You really have to protect the time that you have and the things that you do in life, and really just focus on what it is you want, whether it's a career, or you want to learn how to be more positive, or you want to learn like a new skill. You decide on that and you just do things that are going to get you there. And everything else is noise.
Yes. And I know it's hard to set boundaries as well, especially with your family members, because negative reaction will come up and saying that you're no longer supporting the family, you're more into other people rather than your family. But it affects you, really. You won't be able to achieve your purpose in life if you are being drained by those toxic people.
Yes.
Yeah, as what you've mentioned, what do you really want to pursue in life? And that's what matters. So,
Yes.
what are your goals now in the next 12 months?
So my focus really is on trying to help people get to that place where they're not just getting through life. They're not just, day by day, everything's the same. Or, people sometimes say working for the weekend. You're just getting through the work week. So you have your 2 days off. Like instead of just getting through life and getting by and feeling like everything is just the same old, why not get to that place where you feel more meaningful in your life? You feel like you're doing something more, whether it's helping other people or just doing what you want in your life and getting to that place that you want to be. So really feel like helping people feel like they're thriving as opposed to just surviving. And so that really is my focus, is to be able to help people get to that point where they're not waiting until it's Saturday to be happy. They're not waiting until a special day to pull out that nice dress or that nice jewelry, like just be able to find more meaning and value in your everyday life and in the small things. And, that can just like take you from like A to Z, being able to just make some of those changes in your life.
So, do you have forthcoming workshops or classes that you offer?
Uh, yeah, actually, I do have some things coming up in the fall. So I do have some classes that I do through the Levin Institute that are both in person and online. And like actually one that I have coming up is how to keep your brain healthy. And so this one's a little bit geared more towards older adults, just how to focus on trying to help again with that wellness. Like what are the things that you can do in your everyday life to kind of help with those memory problems that people start, having at that older age. And then I also do have like another mindfulness and meditation class coming up. And so that'll be on Zoom as well. So really just focusing on mindfulness is just sort of goes in line with gratitude. You're really looking at the moment, like now, like you're not looking at yesterday or tomorrow. You're really focusing on now and what you can just really observe and appreciate in the moment.
Wonderful. So, before we end, I would just like to ask if you could share one key message with our listeners about mental health. What would it be?
So one thing that I pretty much make an active effort to do every day since I finally got out of the hospital, um, is really just appreciate today. Like, know that today is never happening again. You're never going to get a second chance at right now, and being able to make the most of today and realize that you can do whatever you want. You just need to start the process, but you just have to realize that you never know when it's going to be your last day. And so just really taking stock in what you have now and appreciating today for what it is.
Oh, yeah. Great tip for all our listeners there. Actually, it's a very practical thing to do every day. Just appreciate what is now. Because when you focus on the past, then it will make you depressed. When you
Yes,
focus on the future, then it will make you anxious.
yes, yes,
So
absolutely.
focus on the present moment. Dr. Andrea, I thank you so much for opening up and sharing with us your valuable insights and your story to our listeners. It's a powerful reminder of resilience, courage, and that transformative impact pursuing one's dream. And I admire you for imagine the second life you have. I don't know if it's the second life because you told me that they tried to revive you for twice or three times, but
Right.
I truly agree. God has a purpose for you. That's why you are here. And now you're helping others live the life they love. And I thank you, Dr. Andrea, for being here. And I wish you all the best for your coaching business.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Aha. Thank you. And to our listeners, watch out for our next episode. Have a blessed day to all. Thank you. Such an incredible story of resilience and transformation. The journey is a powerful reminder that adversity can lead to profound personal growth and the ability to uplift others. It's inspiring to see how each one turned their challenges into opportunities for healing, especially for those who may feel lost or hopeless. I want to take this opportunity to invite you to explore my books, My Journey into Becoming and Dream to Rise from Darkness into Light. In my journey into becoming, I shared my personal struggles in overcoming an abusive relationship and the heart-wrenching moments that followed, ultimately finding my purpose in helping others live their dreams. Dream to Rise, an anthology, combines the stories of 18 courageous co-authors who illuminate the path from darkness to light. Each narrative showcasing the profound impact that sharing our truths can have on those who are struggling. Together, we can inspire change and encourage others to embrace their own journeys. Remember, your voice matters, and there is a community of support waiting to lift you up. Let's continue to be beacons of hope and make a difference in this world. Thank you for being here and for everything you're doing to help others rise. For those who would like to be a part of the Dream to Rise Inner Circle, this is a mastermind group that fosters learning and growth. My main objective is to help the members rise and shine. Be a part of this amazing group and let's strive to be the best version of ourselves. If you need more information, please visit my website, www.dreamtorise.info. Again, www.dreamtorise.info. Have a blessed day to all.